Well, holy crap, man. That was the happiest ending to Ray Zero I ever... Like, I didn't even expect it. There were so many people saying the ending of this episode would crush everyone's soul. That is so crazy. I am sure light novel readers are going to be absolutely pissed. Because I've already seen people talking about how they cut out something. And I'm guessing it's the soul-crushing bit. I'm guessing there was something else that was supposed to happen there. I mean, we literally see Subaru open his mouth at the end there. As if he's about to say something. And then it flashes to the title of the episode being that's all this story is about. As if to say, like, they're not going onwards for now. Like, they'll go onwards for Season 2 if they ever do a Season 2. That's what surprised me as well. This wrapped up the series as if it was a complete end. I mean, yes, there are so many other stories going on. You can definitely come back to this. But it feels like that's a good ending for Amelia and Subaru. That's like the proper fairy tale ending. Oh, man. That's kind of sweet. I'm actually... Oh, man, it's such a confusing feeling for me, to be honest. Half of me is like, that's so beautiful. Subaru and Amelia really deserve that. And then the other half of me is like, but this is Ray Zero. This is the Dark Souls of anime. I'm not supposed to come away from this feeling like everything is perfect and happy and... I mean, you know, a lot of shit went down. A lot of people lost their lives. But this whole episode was just a big... another go of Subaru, like, winning everything, doing everything perfectly, getting through everything, not having to even die and come back multiple times. It was intense, powerful. I loved it. Oh, man. So, yeah, really happy about that. Just really confused that that's what went on. Oh, okay, so, getting into what actually happened in this episode, I guess. Betelgeuse Romani Conti is no more. Like, completely dead, obliterated to the very soul. That was amazing to me. I mean, that fight at the beginning was just intense. It was amazing. With Betelgeuse versus Julius. So, man, that was so good. Julius just running all over the place, taking out all the hands, using Subaru's eyes. Man, that effect was so cool. Like, Subaru's eyes glowing golden and Julius just having his eyes closed the whole time. Man, I just love that whole scene. Julius was such a badass, man. Like, every time he got grabbed by one of the hands, he just kind of shook it off and kept going, kept slicing at them. You had Julius and Subaru having that back and forward, talking about how annoying a situation this was, while all the while Betelgeuse was just going absolutely insane, talking about, as usual, his goddess, his Satella, his witch. Oh man, that was so good. He got so pissed off when they ended up killing him, and they did it in such a great way as well. I did not expect Subaru to be used either. I mean, straight down, I agree with Betelgeuse. I would not be ready for Subaru to attack. The fact that he had one of those magic stone things that seems like it just contains a lot of magical energy, that was cool. The fact that he took out the barrier and it was him that let Julius actually get the final blow in, that was sick. And then he was prepared as well. Straight up prepared for Betelgeuse to enter his body. He knew that was what was going to happen. He figured out a way to take care of him. Man, I'm shocked that worked. I really am. I did not think Satella would be that good about everything. I mean, you'd think Satella wouldn't want to be used, but she straight up did. She got rid of Betelgeuse. He ran away back to his own body. And so that was a really cool feeling. I mean, the fight was animated brilliantly as it was. Some of the times when Julius was like flipping up into the air and then using that giant rainbow blade attack he did, man. So good. And you knew Betelgeuse was going to come back. I didn't feel like that was a good enough death for him, just for Satella to be the one that finished it. But man, Satella looked cool. As far as I can tell, that's straight up Amelia's voice. So do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the same Seiyu doing exactly the same voice for Satella. And the fact that she told Betelgeuse, "You're not the one," and just like tore him to shreds. Oh man. I actually felt a little bit bad for Betelgeuse. Like, you could tell Subaru did as well. Even though he straight up knew Betelgeuse was completely evil and ridiculous, there was also this scene, like, once they were on the carriage, once Betelgeuse was making his final charge, when his body was just like an empty husk, and it was mostly just the hands, the unseen hands things that were keeping him moving. Like, that was insane. You had Subaru literally feeling bad for him and saying, oh, if you'd been acting more like a monster, you might have actually killed me. Like, it was at that point Subaru realised Betelgeuse was really in love with Satella, that he knew he'd been rejected, that he was hurt. He was literally salty about that shit, man. So it was amazing having Subaru feel that kind of feeling, realising that, damn, Betelgeuse is kind of like him, just being dejected by the woman that he loved, even if his love was so fucked up and messed up. And the way he threw the book and then punched him off the goddamn carriage. So amazing. A little bit too badass. Like, especially when you had the one hand coming towards Subaru's face but then disappear. I mean, too badass, but still so cool. And man, Otto was a beast in this episode as well. I mean, if it wasn't for Otto, they never would have gotten to Amelia in time. But more importantly, his, like, blessing thing, I think they called it. The soul of speech or something? Where you can essentially hear all creatures' speech. I mean, he can hear the trees as well as, like, the birds, the animals, everything. So that was a cool little trick that he had, where he could figure out exactly the best way to take all the shortcuts. And man, he was acting so cool as well. Like, him and Subaru were having that little bromance thing. Otto was in love with the idea of moving that fast, and you had Subaru just, like, cheering him on. Telling him not to look backwards because he'd get freaked out, man. They were so funny together. I really did like Otto from as soon as when we met him. I was a bit worried when we found out he was kidnapped that he was actually in on it the whole time. I'm glad that it wasn't like that, and he is just this energetic little kid who can speak to every creature, apparently. Man, so damn good. Oh man, there were other bits that were like being hinted at. The idea that Betelgeuse really did have some deeper connection to Satella, though. I mean, he talked about how he hasn't forgotten one moment of the things that she'd done for him. I mean, it feels like it's harkening back to the idea of Satella having been alive at some point and having actually influenced people's lives, but now she's forgotten about that. She's kind of moved on. I mean, we've got this whole thing where Amelia's now pretty much in love with Subaru, but you've also got Satella that's in love with Subaru, or at least using him, thinks she's in love with him no matter what. Subaru seems to have some memories of her, but only in the instances where he actually sees her and feels her. Once he wakes up from that and he's come back and there are no unseen hands around him, he doesn't remember her anymore. So that was all very interesting to me. But I don't know what the hell it means. I'm probably never going to know what it means. I mean, they need to do a season 2 for this. It was so powerful, man. It was so, like, there's so many things left unspoken about. Then we had the big conclusion to the episode, and my god. The fact that this episode was almost 30 minutes long, I mean, it was straight up 27 minutes long. They had the credits at the end, but they went over time anyway, just to make sure they got everything in. And it was so powerful. It was such a slow, deliberately final kind of thing, where you had Subaru after he saved Amelia, and that was amazing as it was. Like, I keep getting distracted, because there are moments in this episode that actually blow my mind. The moment when Subaru, like, jumped in through the carriage, you had that bright lighting effect behind him. He did, like, the heroic jump with, like, one arm down. Man, that looked badass. You had Amelia reacting to it like mad, and he was just, like, shaking off that feeling of seeing his beloved again, grabbing the bag and getting out of there, being the hero. But yeah, when he got his hero's reward, so good. Like, straight up 10 minutes of Amelia talking to Subaru, of them finally getting to talk about everything they've needed to talk about for so long. I mean, when he was charging away, and she was asking him, why are you doing this? And he was just straight up like, because I love you. Oh, right in the feels. That got me. It was so sweet. Oh, yeah. Really love that scene. You have her freaking out about it. I mean, the whole way through this episode, you had her trying to understand why it would be Subaru who was trying to save her after all the bad things she did to him. Of course, with the knowledge that she only did them because she wanted to push him away because she was scared that she was going to hurt him. I mean, she said it all in this episode. She was talking about how she shouldn't be with him because she's a half-elf, because everyone hates her, because of this, because of that. Oh, it was just so horrible. And you imagine that those are the kind of feelings that were going through her head when she first had this kid, Subaru, fall in love with her and chasing after her and wanting to be her knight. And she was like, worried about that because it was special treatment, which she doesn't like. She doesn't like being treated special because she's an elf, because normally it's in a bad way. It's like, oh my god, she's a half elf, disgusting. Racism and discrimination kind of thing. She didn't like Subaru treating her differently because she thought she'd finally found someone who just didn't see any of that, who didn't see the fact that she was a half elf and just saw her as a normal girl. But then he was treating her specially and she didn't like it. She felt like there was something wrong there. She couldn't understand it. And even if he was just being nice, she didn't want to put him in that position where he'd be with her, who is like this half-elf, dangerous woman that everyone hates. And so I loved that line that she dropped at the end when Subaru was talking about how if she says 10 things she hates about himself, he'll end up telling her 2,000 things that he loves about her. Oh, that was so sweet. Like, she was crying her eyes out at that point. She was like, that's the first time I've ever liked special treatment or been happy about special treatment. Oh, man. It was so sweet. This is what I loved about it. You had these two staring into each other's eyes. You had that nice effect that Re:Zero has been practicing throughout this season, with characters being reflected in each other's eyes. You had like the double reflection of Amelia in Subaru's eyes, the double reflection of Subaru in Amelia's eyes, showing they were just focused on each other. So good. We had Subaru like admitting to all the dickish things he'd done, which weren't that bad, but I mean, like, he did manage to explain himself in this, that even though he was saying he was doing everything for her, it was more that he just liked the feeling of pretending to be that hero, pretending to do everything for her. He liked that feeling of being the knight, being special, so it was more for him than anything else. Even though he did then say, but he did still want to protect her, he still did love her, he wanted to keep her safe. Like, that was all true, it just wasn't 100% for her. It was still some of that selfish feeling getting through. I love that. They went through everything in this episode. It made me so sad, but in a good way. Like, it made me sad in that, man, Subaru's been in a journey kind of way to get to this point where he can actually talk to her about this and move on with his life. God damn. So yeah, from that moment, as soon as he woke up, like, with the lap pillow, and he was straight up talking about this heavenly sensation underneath my head, it was just pure sweetness, just 100% a wrap-up to the whole series, where we've got that feeling that Subaru's going to move forward with Amelia. Amelia's starting to fall for him, like, she can see how much he cares about her. She doesn't want to let him go. She wants to treat him special as well. He's 100% in love with her. And yet he didn't even, like, push her to make the answer. That's the best thing. Subaru's grown so much. It wasn't just a straight away, now give me my reward and tell me you love me. It was one of those straight up, like, just take your time. I just want to be around you because I love you moments. Oh! Yeah, 100%. Great episode. Straight 10 out of 10. Animation was brilliant most of the way through. There were a few little slip-ups. But definitely at the ending there, they did the same thing where they put like a lot of attention into the animation of Amelia's movements while she was crying and speaking, so you could properly see her crying and shaking off the tears and the emotion that was going through her head. You could see her like shaking her head or closing her eyes hard because she didn't want to be thinking about certain things. So yeah, perfect. Just perfect. A nice little ending where we got to see Subaru get exactly what he wanted from the first time that he met Amelia, and he deserved that. Because this was a long journey for him. He has grown so damn much since the beginning. And I'd like to think that somewhere out there, Rem is happy right now because she knows Subaru's out there being the hero that she's wanted him to be and the one that she fell in love with. So yeah, it was just a great ending. Straight 10 out of 10. And there were so many other good bits in this episode as well that I've just overlooked until this point. Because, I mean, they weren't major points, but still, I need to, like, shout them out. Wilhelm being a beast. Like, taking out all the fingers pretty much single-handedly. And then even when Subaru, like, burst through the forest, he was straight up just, like, pointing out where Amelia was, letting him go, and then any of the fingers that were trying to get near Subaru, he was destroying them, making it clear that Subaru needed to get to his woman, and nobody was going to stop that, because Wilhelm knows that feel of wanting to be with the woman that you love and not being able to. Man, that was sick. The kids giving away Subaru's secrets so easily. The little girl, like, face-palming at that point. And the fact that, like, Puck knew all of this from the beginning and was just kind of slowly letting Emilia come to that conclusion. I mean, I loved when Subaru jumped into the back of the carriage and Puck came out and was like, what are you doing here though? Oh, that's why you're like ignoring Emilia and moving so quickly. Like, he was so chilled about everything. It was just like, yep, Subaru's got a plan. Subaru's got to do what Subaru's got to do. So that was great. And the fact that Subaru still has, like, the witch's book. God, I forgot its name. The one that can predict the future. The fact that he then writ in the book that Betelgeuse was finished as well and showed it to him. I'm wondering if that is actually what killed him, because it's like a fated kind of thing, or if it's like a foreshadowing thing for the idea that Subaru will go back in time at some point and he is going to be the one that writes that book up to this point and then essentially makes it so that Betelgeuse knows what to do up to this point, so the ending comes exactly the way he wants it. Man, just an incredible episode from start to finish. I'm going to ask for one thing in the comment section. I know a lot of the light novel readers and the web novel readers are going to want to spoil what they missed out from the end of this arc. So I would like to know that as well, but I'd like you to put like a big, in capital letters, SPOILER, spoiler, at the top before you post anything about that. Just make like 3 lines after that and then post your comment, because I do want to read those now that we're past the anime. Now that we haven't been announced to season 2 yet, I want to see what was missed out, what was the soul-crushing bit. I want to hear about that. But I'm sure there are people who won't want to know and want to wait for a season 2, so yeah. Do let me know in the comment section what they missed out. Let me know in general whether you're an anime only, whether you're a web novel reader, what you thought of this series. Just from beginning to end, it was beautiful to me. I love fantasy type series, and this was a great example of one. They put so much work into this. White Fox went the extra mile every time. All of those extra length episodes. The amount of times they skipped the opening and the ending. Man, they just put in so much work. I love them. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on this series, which is definitely going at least in my top 20 anime of all time. And if you enjoyed this review, wreck that like button like you mean it. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more. And I will see you guys next time.